This is Tyrese Halliburton, and you're listening to Setting the Pace.
What's up, Pacer Nation? Welcome into another episode here of your go-to Pacers podcast, Setting the Pace. I'm your host, Alex Golden, joined today by Mike Facci to do one of our favorite episodes we do all year long. It is the Trade Ideas podcast here as we get closer to the trade deadline. And Facci, I know that coming up with deals can be quite the challenge, but are you up for it?
I am. I mean, you usually do it better than I do. You get a little wild, the 3 and the 14 deals. It's always historically been harder for me to wrap my head around those. So my deals might be a little bit more bland, a little bit more on a, one-to-one type basis. But I think nonetheless, we're going to have some fun with this.
All right, so how we're going to do things today is Facci is going to kick things off for us with his trade ideas. And then after his trade ideas are done, I'm going to go through mine. I have about twice as many as Facci. So I wanted to let him kind of get the floor, and then we'll just discuss these as we go through them. So Facci, you're on the clock. What is your first trade?
I'm on the clock. Here we go. All right. Zubac. Brought him up before. I'm going to bring him up again. Here's the trade. All right, Zubac to Indiana. It's just a 2-team deal. Tell me if I'm missing the boat here. All right. So the Clippers realize, hey, you know what? Things aren't going their way. They're going to try and just kind of, not say start the reset, but really get some young players they can develop in. Zubac to Indiana for Benedict Mathurin, Jarris Walker, Cam Jones, and a 2027 first that is top 5 protected. So
Are you kidding me? You're giving away our whole entire team. No, I'm just kidding.
No,
That's what everybody I think will say in the comment section.
They might, but if you really squint your eyes, you go, okay, well, you got to pay Mathurin, okay, so he could be leaving anyway. The Clippers have the money to be able to do that. Jarris, while he has played better lately, don't be a prisoner of the moment. I think that the Clippers could very much value some young players. Like, you look at their roster, there's not really a lot of any young core they could sink their teeth in. It's a very old team. Cam Jones, it's unfortunate, hasn't really gotten to show anything, so maybe they like the opportunity as having, hey, we got a young guard, and then a first-round pick for a team that's pretty strapped for picks, moving forward. I mean, this is a team that, let's go through this real quick. So in terms of first-round picks, they owe their pick to OKC this year, all right? Then it's a swap of a first-round pick to OKC next year. So it's no pick in 2028, all right? So then they swap with Philly in 2029. So, they are starved for draft picks. So, for them to get a top 5 protected 2027 first, you get young players that count basically as draft picks, and you give up Zubac. Maybe it's not enough for them, but just to kind of give a quick run through for Zubac, he's making $18 million this year. The following 2 years, $19 million and $20 million. It's an unbelievable contract. Unbelievable. We talked about Daniel Gafford's contract before. I think Zubac is giving you so much bang for the buck that this deal makes a lot of sense for Indiana. I just worry that maybe Clippers go, this deal doesn't really allow us to compete right now.
Well, that's my fear, right? I think they want to win right now.
Yep.
And so this to me is more of an offseason trade than it is a trade right now that makes sense. And I'm excited to see what happens because I do think that Zubac, sorry, I keep saying the wrong name. It's Zubac. I keep saying Zubac. I don't know why I keep doing that. It's Ivica Zubac. That's why I keep doing it. Anyway, I think that he's really good. And you know me, I mean, I think he was number 1 on my trade targets idea list, right? For the center of attention. Like, he's the guy that I want. Like, I've envisioned Zubac with this team so many times in my head. I've got that jersey saved of him in a 55 jersey, a Pacers 55 jersey if he were to come on here. So, hey, I'd be okay with it, Facci. I would love it if they could make this deal work. I remember when we brought this up to Caitlin Cooper, right? What did she say? Mathurin, Jarris, and a first for Zubac? I'm not doing that. And I'm thinking to myself, what are you going to get then if you're not willing to give that up? So I honestly, I will just say I disagree with Caitlin on that opinion there. I think that it's going to take this much to get him. I just don't think it's going to take place at the deadline for this package, which is why when we talked about some stuff, I thought that the idea of sending Nick Claxton and a 3-team deal with Mathurin to the Clippers made more sense. But I posted that on a Clippers page, and those Clipper fans were just like, we turned down, better offers than this. So this is obviously not going to get done. And I'm like, I don't know if I agree with that, but I do think that a youth movement of a deal like this would make a ton of sense in the offseason. But they're trying to win, and the thing is, we don't want them to give OKC this pick in a very good spot. We want them to make the playoffs, so OKC's pick is right there around like 15, 16, 17.
That's true. I mean, you give OKC the 8th overall pick. I don't know why that's always the example, but like they'll make something happen of it. They really will. But I also think that like when we heard, like, I think it was Michael Scotto that reported that the Clippers turned down a deal from Boston that was like Anthony Simons, a first round pick and a swap. I looked at it and it's like I've turned that down. I turned that deal down too. Simons is like an expiring contract averaging like just under 14 points per game and really looks like the product of being able to put up big numbers on a Portland team that was not good. So like that trade to me is not a good deal. This one where you at least get Benedict Mathurin, who I'd much rather have over Simons. You get Jarris that you can take a gamble on. Cam Jones, I can't say is or isn't anything, and then you at least get a first round pick that I don't know. Hopefully, Indiana's a really good team, but I wouldn't be surprised if they say it's not enough. But the other back pocket, I don't think it swings the deal either. Back pocket, last final resort. If you have to, if you have to slide in Jay Huff for Cam Jones, does it move the needle at all, knowing they are getting a center here?
Well, now we're talking, Facci, because Jay Huff is no, I'm just kidding.
A needle mover, right? No,
It's not moving the
I
needle.
don't
I
think
mean,
so.
there's a reason why we're trading for a center now. Jay Huff might be a nice backup big for them, but once again, I don't see this one happening.
That's
Pacer
fine.
fans, if you think of it, I mean, and I'm not trying to be mean. I know people are like,
No.
"Oh, you always shut down Facci's ideas."
What you
I
do,
like the trade.
but then it's okay. But this one's okay because I'm not saying the Clippers definitely do this deal. I'm saying like, hey, if you're Indiana, you're like not trying to give up a bunch of your core. You're really kind of giving up like players that you've tried to develop, and like Matherin's obviously the key piece in this deal. Your first round pick, you don't care about anymore. At this point, you can have like a legitimate starting five that you feel really good about, and your rookie that you bring in, I
Yeah.
assume off the bench, and now you got a roster that's ready to rock, and everyone's already taken care of financially. No one's due for a contract at that point. So, it's appealing, but I wouldn't be surprised if they say, "Hey, if we're looking to trade Zubac, we're looking to trade him for like an all-star." So,
Yeah, that's what I think.
yeah.
I think they just want to wait because they've found some kind of chemistry that's working right now, and no reason to blow it up yet. I think that if you're the Clippers, like your hope is like couldn't Kawhi and Zubac and James Harden in this group, maybe they go out there and they're buyers and they go out there and make a bigger move. Like that's one other way you can maybe get Zubac if it's a bigger deal. But right now, I think with just trying to trade what the Pacers have on their roster for Zubac, I don't see the Clippers doing it. But I'd love to be wrong. I'll tell you that much. So you got two more
Yep,
trades up your
that I
sleeve. All
do.
right, let's see what you got.
Next one, Walker Kessler. Another one where I'm scared of. I don't know if it'll be enough, but here we go. Walker Kessler and George Niang, former Pacer, Tyrese Halliburton's friend, but more of an expiring contract. To Indiana for Benedict Mathurin, Ijax, a 2027 first, not protected. All right.
Oh, I thought you said top 5.
Okay. Well, yeah. Well, I had to make the deal better. I changed it. I said it to you earlier, but I'm changing
Okay.
it because I know you're gonna that's not enough. So it's no longer top 5 protected. All right.
Okay.
And then Utah gets their 2027 second round pick back, which maybe could be a top 35 pick. So we'll run it again. Kessler, George Niang, expiring contract for Mathurin, Ijax, 2027 unprotected first, and Utah gets their 2027 second round pick. What do you think?
Okay, so if I'm Danny Ainge, I'm listening to this offer, right? And I'm saying, okay, where's the other first step for Kessler?
I know, yeah. That's why I changed it when I was mulling this over. I was like, stroke the beard a little bit. It's like, you know what? We got to remove that protection. So that's why I removed it to try and sweeten it a little bit. But I just feel like if you're talking about Mathurin, 2 firsts, you get off the Ijax, it's still not a bad deal. It's still not because I could understand that Utah would say, well, I got to commit $100+ million to Benedict Mathurin after this. So, what are you going to give me? And I'm also taking Ajax's contract. So, I guess you could make an argument to say that, like, you got to probably include at least a swap.
Yeah.
So, if it's
Now,
a first round swap, would Utah do it?
depends on what they think Indiana's going to do in 2028. It depends on what they think Indiana will do in 2029, right? It depends on what
Yeah.
the swap is. What if the swap is like a 2031 swap? Like it's way
Ooh,
down the line.
that's
That too
always,
risky for you?
it's always pretty sketch because you look at this is Indiana now, like, who's there?
in 2031. I know that's what I'm saying. That's why I think if I'm the Jazz, I'm pushing for that. I'm not doing one when they're going to be like, oh, Siakam, this top 3 pick plus Halliburton back. Well, oh, they got their center and Kessler. Like, they're going to be good for a while. But if I'm giving them Kessler, he'll probably be on the roster in 4 years for him, and he'll be really good. And then you got Tyrese being good. Like, they'll probably be like, maybe not championship window. They're thinking at least Siakam will be a little bit older, maybe past his prime. But here's kind of how I look at this deal, Facci, and I don't know if you do the same thing, but the way you have it set up right now with the 2027 unprotected plus Mathurin for Kessler, I think that like the Ijax plus the Jazz getting their second round pick back for the expiring of Niang, that part of the deal makes sense.
Mhm.
And that is like 50% of what I think they would do, because you're getting a young big and Isaiah Jackson, you're moving off and expiring, plus you get complete control of your second round pick next year, which is huge. I think that deal does make sense. It's just the Mathurin for Kessler plus the pick swap. I kind of feel like, do they need to pay Mathurin for the position he plays? Is that what they want? Right? Like that's the biggest question mark to me. But if it's Mathurin plus 2 picks or a swap way down the road, then I'm probably getting my ears perked up a little bit more if I'm Utah.
I mean, we also have to pay Walker Kessler in this deal. So, like,
But you also need a center, and you don't want to pay
no,
another wing when you're already
you
loaded at that
definitely
spot.
do. I just think that like both team is in a spot where you got to cut like a large check. You got to cut a check with a 100 in front of it, and then whatever else follows it afterwards. So like both teams can be like, okay. If you're Utah, are you looking for like that go-to scorer? You already have Keontae George, so like you have him. You have if you have Mathurin, you have Lord Marketing. Like you have like
Ace
your
Bailey.
I know, but I mean, obviously, they're invested in him, like, 5th overall pick.
Yeah.
Not having a great year, but we'll see. Like, still super, super young. So, like, that was the kinda thing that I look at where I'm like, "Okay, they might say we already got Ace Bailey at home that we hope works out." So, like,
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be surprised if they did turn it down, but I do think they should have interest because I don't know if they're gonna get a better offer at this time. Like, teams might want Walker Kessler, but are they also going to trade 2 first-round picks and a really good talent, young player like a Bennett Mathurin? That's what tips the scale of, like, I don't know how many teams have that to offer.
I think it all depends on how you value Mathurin if you're the other team, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think some people might be like, yeah, I've never heard the Jazz linked to Mathurin whatsoever,
No, I have not.
which is kind of where it's like, what if Mathurin goes to another team and that team gives a first to the Jazz? Now are we talking? Is that something we could probably do?
I
You know what I
mean
mean? Like, that's where my brain goes when I'm trying to think of
oh,
how
your brain always goes there.
I'm
Your
just
brain
I'm
always goes, "I got an idea for a team." And it's
I
like,
do like some
"Alright."
trade machines, okay? You know,
Yeah.
I spend like 3 hours on it just trying to figure out what makes sense. Like, does this make sense to me? That I'm like sitting back here evaluating, and I'm like, it's hard to know the value of other teams. I
Yeah,
know what I think the Pacers would
oh,
do,
yeah.
like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you always overvalue your own guys as well. That's what I've known.
Every
Like,
single time. Every
well,
single
just think
time.
about it like this, okay? The Sacramento Kings said we want a first for Keon Ellis. What'd they get? A bad contract.
Yeah.
And they
Uh,
had to attach him to a bad contract. So it really wasn't like what might be out there for the asking price won't actually be what it is. And maybe your deal maybe is more realistic than I'm thinking. But I'm just saying they don't have to make that deal. And how much you
no.
think Walker Kessler gets in the offseason? That's like, do
That
you think
that
he's
that is I don't know.
4 for
Like, I
100? Do you think he gets around Mathurin money, 25 million a year?
probably.
Yeah.
I would think so because who else would Utah be paying at that point? Like, they have a
No,
bunch
I'm
of
just saying if
expiring.
he went to the
Yeah,
Pacers, right? If they
yeah.
traded him now, what would
I
the
I
Pacers pay him?
I would think so. I would think that 4 for 100 is probably what the situation is. And I know, like, realistically, everyone should say, "Oh, he missed a year. I don't know. It should be less." That's just not how things work. I
Yeah.
just think that, like, the money being tossed around the league is like it feels like $25 million is pretty much not to say the starting point, but, like, it feels like that once Nick Claxton signed for $25 million, it changed the game. Every single
Yeah.
center that is, like, a starter that is, like, maybe even not an all-star, but, like, a fringe type player is gonna make $25 million.
All right,
Mm.
fine. So let's get to your last trade idea here because I think this one is pretty intriguing as well.
My last deal, I brought him up before, my trade deadline crush, Onyeka Okongwu. Alright, so in this deal, it's just a two-team deal. Keeping it lame, keeping it simple. Benedict Mathurin, Isaiah Jackson, a 2027 top 5 first-round pick for Okongwu. If you absolutely have to, My backup is you could include that Utah 2027 second-round pick as well, but I mentioned previous episode, Okongwu making roughly $16 million each of the next 2 seasons after this one. 25 years old, added three-point shot, a big man who can give you over 3 assists per game. You get off of Isaiah Jackson's contract. You're not paying Mathurin. You already have Okongwu now under contract for the next few seasons. I think if Indiana could get this done, it would be a home run deal for them. If you're Atlanta, the only question I have is you got Jalen Johnson, you got Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Is Benedict Mathurin too much, or do you lean into it to just say, hey, now we have some really, really good scorers, that we have the firepower to try and compete?
Yeah, so I think this deal, I think Okongwu to me is easier to get than a Walker Kessler or a
I think so.
Zubac, right?
I think so.
I don't think he's one of those players that is like, we're so attached to him, we won't let him go.
Yeah.
So I think for the right deal, it makes sense. Now I'm curious. I don't know if you have this up or not. What picks do the Hawks have? Because I know they made that trade with DeJounte Murray and the Spurs. I don't know if they owe picks to the Spurs still.
Yeah, but they own New Orleans' first-round pick.
Oh, from the DeJounte Murray? Well, from that trade in the offseason. Yeah. I know that, but I'm talking about future picks, right?
Yeah. So, and I do have it up. So,
okay.
So they're going to get New Orleans pick. So that's going to be big. Then they also have either the Spurs, Cleveland, Minnesota, or Utah swap rights for this year. So they have, multiple picks, so they can swap with, their, I don't know what the situation is for Utah. So there's that. Then moving forward, it's the same type of thing. 2027, they have swap rights with New Orleans or Milwaukee. So, like, they have 2028 swap rights with Utah or Cleveland. Like, they have a lot of draft picks, a lot. So, like, at some point, they're probably going to go big game hunting and look for someone big. I think in this scenario, like, a first round pick isn't maybe the main thing that you need, but like for like a Benedict Mathurin, I think that could be really appealing. But you could also make an argument to say maybe the fault might be what if they're in position to draft Darren Peterson?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point too. Would they want Mathurin at that point?
Yeah, I mean, that would be,
man.
that'd be tough.
It's a lot of question marks, but it's okay because I think the question marks are, good things to discuss because you're still getting talent. And I mean, honestly, like if you look at the other guards, like on this team for the Hawks, like I'm not blown away by a Corey Kispert or a CJ McCollum or anything like that.
Expiring. He'll be gone.
So I think that they could have interest in Mathurin. Don't get me wrong. I definitely do believe that. I just they're losing a center is going to be huge.
It is. I mean,
what if you had to put Jay Huff in the deal?
If you got to put Jay Huff in the deal, then it ain't going to hold the deal up. I think at this point.
Not. Okay, good. What if they said Walker and Mathurin versus Isaiah? And a pick.
Okay, so it's just one pick now.
Just one pick, just the 2027 pick.
If that's what it is, I'd still do it, but I'd prefer, I'd still do it. It would just be, it'd be like, all right. So if it's Mathurin, Walker, and a 2027 first, I think that on paper it might be, oh man, these are 2 top 10 picks Indiana's giving up, plus another first round pick, but you're avoiding paying Mathurin. You're getting a good center who's under contract for the next few years. I think for that, Indiana will come out better from the situation and not so focused on what could Jarris become or if Jarris reaches his full potential or, well, what if all those things are questions and that we don't have answers to. And like next year, if all of a sudden he just doesn't take any sort of step forward, he has literally zero, value in the league.
Yeah, because it's going to be the same thing with Mathurin again if you don't get Jarris figured out this year, right? Like, and we kind of saw what happened with the Pacers. We haven't really talked about this either, but the Pacers kind of put themselves in this place, right, where they kind of like drag out the Mathurin situation as far as they can, and now that asset is depressed a little bit. Where had you have maybe scoured the market a little bit more last trade deadline for a Benedict Mathurin trade, could you have found a replacement scorer off the bench plus got better assets back in return? Now you're just trying to figure out what is his actual value, knowing that you're going to have to pay him the following year, and you only have him for a couple of months to kind of evaluate if you do trade for him at the trade deadline. So there is a lot of factors in there, but I still think 23 years old, he's really good. Probably really glad you didn't trade him because of what he did in the playoffs. So, you're not mad about it, but I think also like maybe in the summer was the time to move him. Maybe that's where Jarris Walker does get moved in the summer, especially if you get a small forward in the draft. But
I feel like if Jarris Walker gets moved in the summer, it's just going to be like some small like draft day type of move where it's like, Walker got packaged with something for like another first round pick, and you're like, all right, sure. But like it'll be a little bit of like a letdown compared to what it could have been before, where he was like could have been like a potential major piece of a deal. I think he'd be more of like strapped to a pick to get another pick or something else.
yeah, I'm curious to see what the Pacers have up their sleeve because they do make great trades.
They do. They win the majority of the deals that they like. Nobody goes toe to toe with KP and comes out on top. I,
Yeah,
I
I
I
mean,
just feel like that just historically really has not happened.
just think about how historically bad they missed on the Chris Duarte trade or the Chris Duarte draft, and they end
Yeah,
up trading him away to basically get Obi Toppin. And look what Obi Toppin's meant to this team.
it's
That
great.
kind of is okay. If you were to say, oh, the Pacers drafted Obi Toppin 13th overall, whatever it was in the
Yeah.
2021 draft, whatever, you're probably thinking, oh, that was a great decision, right? Obi Toppin,
Yep.
good player, right? Whereas Chris Duarte was more of a bust. Now Isaiah Jackson, you traded, I think Isaiah Todd was like the 31st pick and got
Yeah.
back up for something else. Like you traded maybe another second and got up there, made this deal with the Lakers and a 6-team deal with Washington and all this stuff to get Ijax. Well, it was fine. Like a lot of people were excited about Ijax as a potential player, and that didn't work out. But still, you liked it. Then they got Kendall Brown. Was that the same? No, that was the
Yeah,
preview.
yeah, it was,
I don't know if it was that
no, it
draft or
was
the
a pre-draft.
following. It might have been
So
with Matherin.
it was Kendall Brown, Matherin, Andrew Nemhard were the
Yeah,
same class. I just think, like, just what you talked about before, like, it's not every pick they missed on, like, they nailed the Andrew Nemhard pick.
yeah.
And
They're good late. They're bad
Matherin
early.
was a good pick. I just think that whatever it is, there's been something a little bit missing, whatever it may be, but, like,
They have a
I
track
think
record of not signing their first round draft picks
they
after the
do.
rookie deal.
I think they've missed on a lot of picks historically, and a lot of those, like, it's kinda easy to nail, like, a top 10 pick. It's not easy, but, like, it's easier, but, like, they've whiffed on a lot of picks in the teens or later.
Mhm.
Like, your TJ Leafs and your Go-Go's, and even, like, Ben Shepherd, the late first round pick is, like, hard to call it, like, a whiff at that point. You're hoping to find, like, a rotational player, but, like, I just think that, like, yeah, they've struggled at those type of picks. So, I'm happy that it hopefully would be hard to mess up a top 5 pick, but, we'll see because it's never easy when push comes to shove. It's a little bit easier trading for a player that you've seen for a few years. That's what Indiana's done great with.
All right, Vachi, let's go ahead and take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll quickly go through the trades that I have for you. All right, you ready for that?
Let's do it.
All right. All right, everybody, we are back. And Facci, it's time to get into the trades that I've come up with. And like you said, I do get a little bit more complex.
You do.
So we're going to have some fun with that today. And so we're going to start things off here with a basic 2-team trade that I kind of hinted at on our trade targets idea. And it was, I want to trade for one of those Thunder's first round picks. And here's the deal. The Indiana Pacers get a 2026 first from the Thunder that belongs to the Philadelphia 76ers. They also get back Isaiah Joe, who's making around $14 million this season, okay? The Thunder, they get a 2027 first from the Pacers unprotected and Isaiah Jackson, who is under contract for the next 3 years and making around 7.2 this year. So what this deal does is the Pacers are able to utilize the cap space that they currently have before they get into the tax. They have exceptions they can use as well. They have a disabled player exception for Tyrese Halliburton. They've also got another mid-level exception that they can use to absorb this contract while sending out Isaiah Jackson. The reason why I'm doing this, Facci, is because Isaiah Joe is going to cost the Thunder quite a bit of money. And he is a name that has been circled around there as someone they could get rid of to try to save some money. So if the Thunder made this trade, it would get them under the first apron, which is just a huge deal for them.
That's a really big deal for them, and I feel like they are so smart of an organization. They'll make some sort of move. Also, what was kind of left out is Isaiah Joe's a really good three-point shooter.
Yes.
For his career, he's a 40% three-point shooter. So that's something that Indiana needs. I know the contract isn't long and late, right?
No, so he's got one more guaranteed deal after this season. So 26-27 is around $13 million for him. I believe that's what it was. And then the following, it's 11.3, excuse me. He's due $11.3 million next season. And then the following year, he has a team option for 11.3. So really, it's an expiring contract the Pacers
Pretty
can
much.
utilize. And you basically turn Isaiah Jackson's $7 million contract to 11.3. We talked about if they make this deal, now they can trade him in the offseason, Facci.
Yeah.
And you can utilize Isaiah Joe plus whatever you want to use to go out there and get a center, right? And that's where I think this could make some sense because teams are like, could we get a first-round pick from the Pacers with Isaiah Joe? Like, I know you're using the 2026 pick from Philadelphia to go out there and maybe draft a center of the future or draft a center just to kind of develop and work with over time. But, this Pacers roster, they have so many guys that kind of feel like they need to play to get development, where I think if you have a first-round pick around 20-ish, you're not going to really need to play him that much, especially on a title team or a team that's trying to compete for a title. You can kind of learn over the next couple of years with this group what it takes, get some opportunities when your center maybe has an injury, things like that. But I just think, like you said, good shooter, that matters, but it also, you're giving up an unprotected first, which they can utilize that and do what they want with it and kick that can down the road if they want to do it. But I think it's just really smart of Indiana to try to get a pick back, take on this contract, and see what they can do.
My thing is, why does it have to be an unprotected first for the Pacers? That's always something that's scary.
Well, because you're getting an unprotected pick from the Sixers right now, or from
Yeah,
the Thunder. You're swapping
yeah,
picks.
yeah, but you're getting a 2026. You're getting the 2026 Philly pick. You've already seen enough of a sample size to know that, like we said, that pick's going to be around 20 or so. But by giving up an unprotected pick from the Pacers, that pick could be anything.
Right, which I think you're really here. So here's a couple things. Isaiah Jackson, right? It's an Isaiah trade, which is so funny.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think he's a negative contract. I think he's a negative asset.
I agree.
So I think you have to kind of incentivize them to take Isaiah Jackson. I know you're trying to help them out a little bit by avoiding this luxury tax, but still, they got to take on 2 more years of Isaiah Jackson after this. So it's not just that.
I think.
And here's the thing: even if you protect
done.
it, top 4, top 8, the Pacers aren't going to be that. So it really doesn't
Yes,
matter.
think you
Unless the
just do that.
craziest thing happened. But the 2027 draft is one of the worst draft classes in the NBA draft cycles from what a lot of these draft analysts are saying. So I don't really care. And that's kind of my whole point. Like if it's protected or unprotected is going to make the deal not go through, then take the protections off. I mean, I know every team wants to put like a top 4 protection on picks and things like that, but you're not trading 5 picks, you're trading 1 pick. And
No, I mean, yeah. I mean, it wouldn't even make sense to trade 2 in this scenario. I just think that if you could even just say a top 8 protected pick, I think OKC does the deal because that Philly pick is not going to be that. So I think that you could still get the deal done with that. Unprotected is like, what if Halliburton has a setback and all of a sudden something happens like this? Like your season could crash. The Pacers covered their behinds when they traded back for that first round pick. It just showed that giving up an unprotected pick could at any point. Look at the Clippers now. I mean, obviously it's different. The different scenario on their trade. If you can lightly protect this pick, count me in. If it can be top 8 protected, I'm in. Unprotected, I start to go, oh, I really got to sleep on this because you don't want the worst to happen.
I mean, that's a fair point. And I think one other example you can look at is just what the Pelicans did when they traded that pick to the Hawks, right?
That's a boneheaded move. They should have easily said, hey, we're trading for, I think Derek Queen was like the 13th overall pick or something like that. You traded an unprotected pick for the 13th overall pick. That's a wild move.
To move up 10 spots.
They should have said top 5, something like that.
Or even if they would put a top 4 protection on it, they could still get a top 4 pick this year potentially. It's just
exactly.
I mean, you can play with your protections. I'm not worried about that. If they want to add protection on it, okay. I just said unprotected because I'm just like, I don't need this to be a holdup and a deal that could really make a lot of sense for the Pacers. And I'm very out on Isaiah Jackson. Like the guy came in and played 6 minutes in the first quarter and had 3 fouls. He's just such a negative asset. I don't know what you're going to really get back from him. And so you're also getting an expiring after this year and Isaiah Joe to deal with. It's just, it really is good for the Pacers more than it is the Thunder. Because why do they need a 2027 first? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They don't need it. They've already got 3 or 4 other picks in next year's draft as well.
Exactly. It just allows them to continue to do Thunder things, which is just, hey, we got this pick. Let's keep kicking it around, trading it around. But nonetheless, it's a solid deal by you. I think OKC definitely does that deal. If you can protect it, we should do that deal. But nonetheless, it's a good trade.
Okay, let's go to the next one here, Facci. Two-team deal between the Pacers and the Mavericks. Indiana's going to get Daniel Gafford and D'Angelo Russell for Benedict Mathurin and Isaiah Jackson. Now, Indiana acquires their starting center, sheds the salary of Ijax, turns Mathurin into an asset under contract for the next 3 years versus losing him in restricted free agency. They also help Dallas shed salary with D'Angelo Russell being sent into Indiana's available cap room before going into the tax. So I just think that it's right around, I think the Pacers are around like 5.4 million before they go into the luxury tax. So they have a little bit of wiggle room to play with. This would be 4.8 million over if they were to do this deal and absorb that D'Angelo Russell contract. Now, you also have to remember you don't have to pay the full contract of D'Angelo Russell because it's already been paid up to this point for whatever. So it's only going to be a couple $1 million you're really putting on the books versus the entirety of that $5 million contract because it's already been partially paid by Dallas this season. So I think Indiana does this to try to help them. D'Angelo Russell's not been playing great this year at all. Kyrie Irving is going to come back. They have a lot of options here with Derek Lively and things like that they can do. Mathurin's a huge piece moving forward. I know some people might be like, whoa, I don't want to give up Mathurin for Gafford, but I kind of feel like you might have to at this point.
I think Dallas definitely does the deal. And they would love to get their hands on the Benedict Mathurin. You can pair Mathurin with Cooper Flag and Kyrie Irving, and you still have Anthony Davis there if you don't trade him. I think for Indiana, I do wonder, like, is it enough? What do you do with D'Angelo Russell next season? Do you keep him?
Is he on an expiring?
No, it's not. It's a player option.
So 2 years. Yeah. Is he going to want to
Yeah.
opt in with Indiana if he's not playing? Probably not.
Probably not, but his value is just he's not even playing right now.
No, but I think he could find another situation like Dallas or somebody takes a gamble on him to be a backup point guard or something. I mean, no offense, but like look at the Timberwolves, right? They desperately need a point guard. Could he go there and be like a backup for them?
He already was there.
I know.
So it's like the
I'm just
guy's
saying.
kind of he's running out of places to go. But no, I think he's better than to not play. Like, come on, like he could play somewhere. The
Yeah.
contract also, like, worst comes to worst, yeah, at about $6 million, you could find a way to flip it at some point. It's just Indiana's already going to be guard heavy with Halliburton coming back, and you got Nembhard, you still got McConnell there, and where does Cam Jones ever fit in to get any sort of playing time? So it's not a bad deal. I dream bigger to be like, is there something else if you're gonna trade Mathurin? Is there some like, is Daniel Gafford really what we're down to as like this could be it? I mean, there's a scenario that could be it, but I just wish it could be like more of a set it and forget it type of starting center.
Yeah, and honestly, like I'm so out on Isaiah Jackson right now. Like every time I pair him with Mathurin, I feel like he does bring the value down. I think he does
I
because
think so, though. I really do think
yeah,
so, because, like, now it's like instead of having, I mean, obviously, they're getting off Gafford's contract and stuff like that, but they gotta pay Mathurin, but, like, that D'Angelo Russell, it's $6 million next year as opposed to about $14 million in the future for Isaiah Jackson, and you already still have Anthony Davis that you're paying big money to, so, it's definitely a bit of a negative asset. I understand that, I go through those scenarios where Isaiah Jackson is pretty much included as many deals as I can, just because how do we get that off the books, man? I love
yeah.
every other contract that
I think
Indiana
he's in
has.
every trade.
Yeah, I don't doubt that.
Yeah. All right. Let's go to my third trade here, Facci. Another 2-team deal. I'm not getting too crazy yet, but we're gonna maybe expand off this deal. So this is kind of be my base work. See what you think of this. Pelicans get Jarris Walker, Isaiah Jackson, and Indiana's 2028 second-round pick for Yves Missy and Kevon Looney.
I think I do it. I do it. Yep.
You think both teams do it?
Um. I don't know. I don't know. New Orleans is such an odd situation. Like, they have a lot of talented players. I think that for Yves Missy, I don't think that they're like tied to him so much. Like, I really don't. Like, of
Mhm.
course, Indiana gets two centers here. Like, yeah, but like Looney's a veteran who won't be hanging around long. Isaiah Jackson's still like young enough. And then for Jarris Walker, I think they might like him. Like, they might. You
Yeah.
got to pick. I think both sides. this makes sense because there's been times where I've tried to be like, do you just trade Jarris Walker for Yves Missy straight up? But like, you obviously you need to incorporate a little bit of salary in there in this. And I think if you can get rid of Isaiah Jackson's contract, then for me, it's enough to say, all right, this deal actually makes sense on a couple levels.
Yeah, because I know like the rumor was they like Mathurin, but the Pacers said it wasn't enough. Do they like Jarris Walker? We haven't heard anything about that.
Yeah.
Jarris has played a lot better the last month or so. Could that be a turning point for the Pelicans and Joe Dumars to say, maybe there's something here with a small forward? Kevon Looney, expiring contract, so I think he's like a team option for $8 million next season. So once again, like that really does give you a clearance to get off of the Isaiah Jackson number to get Kevon Looney. Maybe you could keep him for an expiring deal and pick up that team option and have some center depth, or you just let him go and go about your way and figure things out. But I mean, he's a solid guy, and we obviously know he can play in that type of pace the Pacers want to play in because of what he did with Golden State and how they kind of play similarly to how Indiana plays in regard to getting a lot of shots up and 5 out and things like that. So he has an understanding of that system. But I think that's where that deal is kind of like very like boring. But it does feel like a trade deadline deal now. If I want to get crazy, Facci, I'm going to give you the crazy trade.
How crazy are we getting?
It's a 2-team deal, but we're getting a lot more involved. Okay, so that was the frame. That was the base work. Now we're going to expand on it. Okay. The Pelicans get Jarris Walker and Isaiah Jackson, but they're also getting both Bens, Benedict Mathurin and Ben Shepherd, as well as a 2027 first unprotected and a 2029 first top 4 protected for Trey Murphy III, Yves Missy, Carlo Matkovic, and a 2030 second swap from the Pelicans.
All right. Punting on the 2027 first.
And
That's
29.
That's when things get wild. Okay. So Jarris Walker, okay. I'm all right moving him. Mathurin, okay, you understand the writing's on the wall. Isaiah Jackson, get the contract off. Ben Shepherd, I think at this point is fine. The 2 firsts is like this is like an all-in type deal. Like this is really like you're trading your youth, you're trading your picks. You want to win now.
This is the
Trey
Siakam
Murphy,
window.
yeah, this is it. This is definitely to say like we want a championship. Trey Murphy's having a really good year. I mean, he's averaging 25 points per game. Like he's someone that we've heard. I want to say it was him, where they were like at least 2 first-round picks or more.
Oh, they said multiple first-round picks.
Yes.
I think they said 3, and they said like 2 for Herb Jones.
Okay, so for Trey Murphy, it's 21.5, not 25 points. So, but
I think he was averaging 25 over like a couple weeks.
Yeah. So either way, like he is a very, very good player at a position that you've always needed. 6'8", like great wing. Like I feel like, man, this is really tough. I think you do the deal. I think you do it. On paper, it does look like a lot. It does, but man, if you find out that you just gave up the number 1 overall pick, do you feel sick to your stomach?
It's a 2027 first. It's not.
Oh, I'm sorry. I read it wrong for a second. Yeah. No.
You were like, "Oh, that's 2027."
Well, I read that as a 2026, and I was like, "Man, I just don't know about that."
No, I would not do that. I'm not putting that.
I wouldn't do it because I'm like, you can't give up the number 1 overall pick for like anybody. I think the idea of that is always like, wow. So yeah, 2027 first, I do it. I do this deal. Sign me up. Yep.
Yeah, and I don't know if the Pelicans do it, but this is kind of like that Godfather offer that we saw the Magic do for Desmond Bane, or we saw the Nets do for Mikal Bridges. I don't think Trey Murphy III is like anything more than the 3rd best option on your team. Okay, personally, that's how I feel. And with this deal, to me, you're getting Yves Missy to be a part of your center rotation. He could be your starting center. You are losing some valuable pieces that you could utilize in a trade to make a center trade work to get a little bit more upgrade there. So that's like the big question mark. Like you're trading a lot of your talent here to do that. But listen to this depth chart just for a second. Tyrese Halliburton, Andrew Nembhard, Trey Murphy III, Pascal Siakam, Yves Missy. Okay,
yeah, that's a real good starting 5 right there.
Your backup, TJ McConnell, the 2026 first-round pick, Aaron Nesmith, Obi Toppin, Jay Huff.
I like it.
Johnny Furphy's in that mix as well. Okay, and here's what I'll say. We've been talking about consolidation trades for a while. And this, to me, is kind of a smart time to do it because that window, that championship window is potentially there. Who in the Eastern Conference is scaring you right now? I don't think a whole lot are. And It
Not
does
the
feel
Bucks,
weird to maybe
tell you that.
what'd you say?
I said, not the Bucks, just had to slide that in there, but, just for the hell of it. But no, I honestly think that Indiana roster all of a sudden does look scary. Like,
Yeah.
it really does because, yeah, like you said, Trey Murphy shouldn't be your number 1, shouldn't be your number 2. As a number 3, wow. Wow, and Halliburton doesn't need to be a higher scorer just to be ranked above him. It's just in terms of, like, that being your big 3 and a really, really well-rounded group around it is an opportunity for Indiana to make some serious noise in the East.
Well, and I think making Neesmith your super 6 man is probably what's gonna end up happening anyway. And what let's just say for whatever reason, like, in the draft, you win the lottery and Darren Peterson is your pick, okay? Imagine Peterson with Neesmith off the bench. Now you've got an overloaded problem here at the 2 and the 3 long term, and I'm not saying I wanna trade Nembhard or Neesmith, but with Murphy and Peterson and Halliburton, like, Murphy's around 25 years old, Foch. So, like, he's going to be at that same age as Halliburton for a while. They're very good friends. I think that could be a really nice pairing there together. But once again, I don't think he's more than a third option. I think that it's probably a lot to overpay for him, but I also like the fact that you're getting Yves Missy back in the deal too. So you at least feel like you're getting some center depth as well. But just having all the options to me is huge for a playoff run. We've seen depth work. But if you're afraid of Mathurin leaving, you don't really know if you can trust Jarris Walker to be anything more than what he is. Isaiah Jackson, you don't like him. Shepard, like you said, he's expendable. You're really just investing the money plus the picks to make the deal work.
Yeah, which, if you are serious about winning, draft picks won't help you much.
No.
They really don't. We've seen enough from this Pacers team to know, like, they can be a team that can win, and whoever's coming in, in the pick 20 or so is not gonna really contribute a lot. I'd rather punt that pick out if you can get a player that can win right now. I think it's totally different. Like we said, we're both in agreement. You can't trade that 2026 pick for anything. You gotta keep that because that could be, immediately your top 6 man, like anything of the sort like that. So, yeah, this is a type of deal that I think makes a lot of sense, and New Orleans feels like a team that, you know, could be open to make a deal happen.
And what has everybody said when they've heard Yves Missy attached to the Pacers? They're like, if it's for Trey Murphy the third, then yeah, we'll do it. But without him attached, we're not doing this deal. Well, I tried to do my best to come up with what I thought was a fair deal. I do feel like 2 lottery picks plus 2 basically unprotected first for Trey Murphy the third. It's pretty good. I mean, look at what the Magic gave up to get Desmond Bane. It was Contavious Caldwell Pope, Cole Anthony, and 3 first.
Yep, and a swap, I think. So
Maybe a swap, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I'm just saying, and that's not really lottery level players right there. Contavious Caldwell Pope was an overpaying free agency, didn't pan out after being with the Nuggets, and then Cole Anthony, like, he got cut immediately. So it's like they didn't really want anything but the money. Is there something else in that trade that I'm missing?
I don't think so. No, I
Okay,
think
okay.
it was just a lot of draft picks and,
Yeah, and so that's why I'm kind of like, maybe you don't have to give up 3 draft picks and just completely dismantle your entire, future pick asset. But like, think about it this way with Siakam, right? He's got 2 more years left on his deal. Maybe you sign him to a 2-year deal after that. And then once he's off the books in 2 or 4 years, that's when your 2026 draft pick is up for his extension. So I think it all just kind of lines up together. And even if you get a Cam Boozer, like I don't care who you get. I think just having that 2026 first round pick is smart. And, going in and getting Trey Murphy and not having to worry about, could the Bansa be the guy? Like, you kind of know Trey Murphy is the guy.
Yes.
And if the Bansa ends up outplaying him and earning that spot, or Darren Peterson does, then you look in the mirror and say, okay, who should we trade out of Neesmith, Murphy, whatever, to get what we need? We need a power forward now? Who are we going to get a power forward? Who are we going to trade for that? I just think it lets you kind of see, like, bigger picture here. It makes more sense. But anyway, let's get to my 3-team deal, Facci. This is my last real deal here, so we'll kind of close things out with this one. Pacers, Pelicans, and Grizzlies. We're staying with the Pelicans. I just can't quit the Pelicans, but we'll start with the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies are going to get Jarris Walker, Isaiah Jackson, DeAndre Jordan, who's an expiring deal, a 2027 first lottery protected pick from the Pacers, and a 2029 second that belonged to Portland, okay? Pelicans will get Benedict Mathurin, the 2027 second that belongs to Utah, and a 2029 second that belongs to the Wizards, okay? So 2 pretty good seconds in Mathurin. The Pacers get Yves Missy, Jordan Hawkins, and Santi Aldama.
Interesting. We both like Santi Aldama. I think to get 2 centers over here and be able to keep Jay Huff makes you feel like you've now, like, not perfected, but like you feel good at center.
Mm-hmm.
So I like the idea of that. Jordan Hawkins, hopefully maybe he can live up to, what was expected and get some, hopefully improved 3-point shooting. Mathurin, 2027 first swap. Okay, some Isaiah Jackson, Jarris Walker. I mean, I would do the deal because I feel like now you feel great at center. Obviously, Mathurin, if you know he was going to walk, you have to get real value, and I feel like the real value in what you got is like you got a lot of depth now. You have a starting center, you have a backup center. Jordan Hawkins hopefully can become something. The picks weren't bad by any means. Do you think
Just
that's
so you know, I did change what I sent you originally. I did change that 2027 swap to a lottery protected to
okay?
Memphis because I felt like Memphis was not getting enough for Santi Aldama.
I didn't think they were, and that was gonna be my next thing was just say, like, "Man, is this really, like is this enough?" So, like, yeah, I mean, a lottery protected first, I feel like you still, if you're Indiana, go, "Oh, absolutely." Like, first round swap, like, "Alright, you know what?" So, like, I think that you gotta do something. You have to, like, bring down the protections on that, and, like, it might even have to be, like, a top 10 protected or a lottery protected, but, like, I do think you gotta make it more appealing for Memphis.
Yeah, I would
So
do top 4 protected if it got the deal done. I mean,
yeah.
do I think Santi Aldama is better than the 5th overall pick in the 2027 draft? Maybe not, but it depends on
Yeah.
who it is and how bad they are. Like, we've seen a lot of busts in that range from 5 to 10. I mean, I
Yeah.
love being in that spot. So,
Mhm.
I'm just saying I like Santi Aldama a lot. I think he fits his team pretty well. He can play the power forward and the center spot. I think Yves Missy's a good backup. I think Jordan Hawkins, you're just kind of making that to make the math work in terms of, getting off because the Pelicans got to take that Ben Mathurin contract in around $9 million. Yves Missy's only $3 million. So it's like, what if it's Jose Alvarado instead of Jordan Hawkins? Yeah, okay, whatever they want to do. But I think that they would rather keep Alvarado because I think he has more value across the league
I
than
think so.
Hawkins.
I think so, but I think for New Orleans, I mean, that's gotta be pretty solid. I mean, you trade Yves Missi and Jordan Hawkins essentially, and you're
Mathurin and
getting
2 good seconds.
yeah, I think it's a really good deal for New Orleans. I think that's a
Yeah.
home run right there. And I think
Originally, I had Mathurin going to the Grizzlies and Jarris going to the Pelicans. But I was like, I kind of feel like the Pelicans have been rumored to have interest in Mathurin. I don't know what the Grizzlies will want because they got Cedric Howard, right,
yeah, I
at
really
the
like
2,
him too.
and Jalen Wells. So they kind of got players at those positions. And I think at the wing spot, they're kind of a little bit thinner. I will just say this: Joe Mullinax, who is the host of Locked On Grizzlies, has been saying it's time to break up this Grizzlies team and kind
I
of
think
rebuild.
everybody feels that way. I mean,
So
around the
if
league,
if
it's
they're
like
in seller mode, that's why I think this could make sense because you're giving them a young player plus a first, basically, for Santi Aldama. And DeAndre Jordan's an expiring contract, and I gave them the 2029 second from Portland for the Isaiah Jackson contract. Like, that's kind of like the tax. You got to attach a good second round pick to it.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
but I mean, I think it could make some sense. I don't know if they would want Jackson or not. Maybe.
Memphis is the one that I'm, like, a little bit like, I think New Orleans does their part. Memphis, like, it's like, okay, like, that's a little bit tricky. Like, it is nice for them to get, a lottery protected first. You get Jarris over there, like, that's helpful. Isaiah Jackson, like, okay, we'll see. There's a second round pick in there that maybe could be good. I don't think it's like it's definitely not like, "Oh, that's not enough." It's definitely not, like, too much by any means. If that was enough to get the deal done, I think that'd be an awesome deal for Indiana.
Yeah, so if you were to send Isaiah Jackson with Mathurin to Memphis and maybe give them something else, you got Kevon Looney at $8 million. I don't think they're doing that. Sadiq Bey's around $6 million. Could that be enticing?
I think he's played pretty well this year, so I'm
Yeah,
wondering if they'd be looking to trade him.
yeah. I don't really know. Like, I thought about making the deal bigger to like
Uh,
get off KCP's money and then give them Jordan Poole, but then Jordan Poole's like making $34 million next year, so it's almost like
yeah,
ridiculous. You're not
that's yeah, sure.
you're not getting Herb Jones in this deal or anything like that. So
Mm.
it was just really kind of hard to find that math. And like, if they wanted Hawkins and to take a flyer on Hawkins versus Isaiah Jackson, then okay, maybe you do that, right? Like, maybe swap those out a little bit. I don't know. I'm just, I'm just trying to throw some different things out there at the wall and see what sticks. But yeah, I think that it makes some sense, but I think it'd be maybe there's got to be more incentive for Memphis to do it.
I think Memphis needs just a little bit more because Aldama's like a pretty solid player for them. Where I
He
feel
is.
like you might want to like start a rebuild, but he might be a player that you want to keep around
Yeah.
during that. Like, I think when they want to like break it up, it's like we want to get rid of John Morant. That's what they want to do.
Well, and
The
see,
rest
that's the
can
thing
figure itself
too.
out.
You don't know what they're going to get back in any of those other deals they make. So it could make some sense if they were to move off of Morant and get other players at that forward position. Like if they were to trade him to Minnesota and get Naz Reid back, then it might make sense to get rid of Santi Aldama.
Like,
So
I think if they did this deal, they still need to start over. You know, like you look
yes,
at this and you go, okay, now you got Jarris, Isaiah Jackson, DeAndre Jordan, some
he's not
picks.
going to
Like,
be there.
yeah, definitely not. But like, you look at this and you go, well, we definitely didn't get better. So what do we do now? What's the next trade to make? So like, I think that doesn't solve the change for them. I think the change would be like if they were to really deal like a John Morant or a Jaren Jackson Jr. who's making a lot of money and and start different from there. But I think if the Pacers can make this deal, you just shirt up the center spot for sure. And Jordan
Now,
Hawkins feels like the type of player that Indiana. If Indiana can't get it out of you, you don't got it.
let me ask you this. If the Grizzlies said we need a swap as well as a first round, would you do it? If you're Indiana, would you give them a 28 swap?
I feel like now we're starting to talk about a lot.
That's what I'm
First
saying.
round.
That's
Yeah.
where is that in between of what's too
I
much
thi
and
I
what's
think
not
I
enough?
think the Pelicans really aren't giving up much. Like,
Well,
New
no.
Orleans has gotta cough something up. They're giving
I
up
think that
Yves
Portland
Missy.
2029 second is from them.
Yeah, but, like, Yves Missy, Jordan Hawkins, a second-round pick in 2029 from Mathurin, I feel like they might just, you just got a baller. I don't
Maybe
know.
you give some of those second round picks Indiana has going that I have Indiana giving to the Pelicans
Yeah,
to the
yeah,
Grizzlies.
yeah, exactly. I think you could probably give him the Utah 2027 second round pick that I was treating like gold. Like that one I brought up a million times. Maybe look at that one. So, I think that would help Memphis. But even then, you don't want to get too many second round picks. But I don't think anyone else is going to float. Like, you're not going to get 2 first round picks for Santi Aldama. It's just too much.
That's why I'm saying like would a
Yeah,
swap be too much? Because I mean, do we really think the Pacers are going to really swap with Memphis in 2028? Probably not.
yeah.
And then you're just saying, okay, that turns into 2 seconds later down the road. So who knows? But all right, Pachi, here's the last one I have.
Oh, I thought this was the last one.
Well, I remember I told you I had the blockbuster. Remember that?
All right.
I got the
What do
blockbuster.
you
You
got?
haven't seen this one yet. It's a
Okay.
4-team deal. And this is a Giannis trade at the trade deadline.
Oh,
Okay. Now everybody's talking, oh, could Giannis go to the Lakers? Could Giannis go to the Warriors? But they're sleeping on one team that could desperately want to buy and want to win right now because they don't have their draft picks. It's the Los Angeles Clippers.
oh.
And they do have picks in the future, but not that much. So here we go, Facci. We're going to look at this deal, and it worked on Spot Track. The Los Angeles Clippers get Giannis Antetokounmpo and Jose Alvarado. That is it. The Pelicans get the expiring contract of John Collins and Bogdan Bogdanović.
Interesting.
The Bucks, this is where they get a ton. They're going to get Zion Williamson from the
Wow.
Pelicans. They're also going to get Benedict Mathurin,
Oh my god.
Isaiah Jackson for
Okay,
Giannis. You
yeah,
got to remember
obviously.
they're giving up, and Zion to me is a negative contract at this point.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
it's a nice flyer from Milwaukee to take,
yes,
right?
yes, yes.
So you get a 2027 first from Indiana going to the Bucks, a 2028 first from New Orleans for the Zion tax going to the Bucks, and then a 29 and a 31 first going to the Bucks from the Clippers, and a 2030 swap between the Clippers and the Bucks. So the Bucks
Wow.
get 4 first-round picks and a swap plus Zion, Mathurin, and Ijax for Giannis Antetokounmpo. The Pacers get Ivica Zubac. And in this deal, all they're giving up is Mathurin Jackson and a 2027 first.
Wow, this is interesting. Okay. So, Pacers giving up Mathurin, Isaiah Jackson at first, and they get Zubac?
Zubac.
Well, you gotta do that. You gotta do
Yeah.
the deal. If you're Indiana, you have to sign up and say, "Look, please let me know if you need a little bit more." All right?
Yeah.
So, I think that'd be great. For New Orleans, they were getting, who were they
John
getting?
Collins and
Oh, yeah.
Bogdan
They were just, like,
Bogdanović.
facilitators in this deal, okay. So they get out from Zion's contract. They get John Collins expiring. Bogdanović, do you remember how much time he had,
I think he's got one more year on his deal for
1 year?
$16 million.
Okay. So New Orleans, they don't get any picks?
They don't get any picks in this deal, and that's where I was like, So I added a little bit more to it. I had
Yeah.
Chris Paul from the Clippers going to the Bucks, and then I had Ryan Rollins going to the Pelicans.
That would definitely help. That would definitely help.
I sent you a screenshot of the trade so
Yeah,
you can kinda look
I
at it.
see just now you did, because there's a lot of moving parts there. I
There
do
is.
feel like for the Bucks, look, no one's gonna, like, replace Giannis. You're not gonna get a player who's better than Giannis in a trade, but I do feel like getting Zion, and I know Zion hasn't lived up to his potential, but he's no slouch. Like, he's still averaging 22 points per game on 58% shooting, 6 boards, 3.5 assists. Like, so Zion, Mathurin, Ijax, and those picks, I feel like is a really, really good deal
Mhm.
for the Bucks, because the alternative is like feels like it's like Karl Anthony Towns and, like, some picks or this, and it's like, I don't know, like, you can get Mathurin and Zion could be, really, really solid. Like, obviously, you already have Turner there who, he ain't going nowhere, you're not moving that, but you
But
get
Turner and Zion was a dream for the Pelicans for a
uh,
while.
yeah, I mean, yeah, it definitely was. I honestly feel like for the Bucks, like, that's a trade that I think you might have to do if you know you're at the end of the road with Giannis. You don't own picks. People gotta remember that. The Bucks don't have first round picks.
Right.
This gets them a lot of first round picks, and it's also teams from, like, New Orleans, that could be a good pick at any given point. Indiana, okay, like, there's Clippers picks in there, like,
Well,
there's
here's the
enough.
thing with the Clippers, what if Giannis doesn't sign an extension? Now they get all the Clippers could have bad picks.
Anything's possible. Anything's possible. I do think for the Bucks, I think this deal makes a lot of sense for all teams. I think Pelicans are the one that go, "Wait a minute. We're getting out from the Zion deal for just some, like, expiring type contracts." I think they need at least one first.
Hmm. We'll see. I had them giving up a first because they're getting rid of Zion, and that's kind of like he's viewed as a negative asset. I listened to a Pelicans podcast, Locked On Pelicans. Their trade idea they were excited about was Zion to the Bulls for Vooch and Patrick Williams.
That's crazy.
Well, that's what I'm
Like,
saying. So if that's what the value is for Zion, I felt like this was fair value.
I mean,
John
that
Collins
that is that
expiring.
is basically just saying, "Get off of our
That's
team."
what I'm saying because he's owed so much money. So I sent you an
Patrick
expanded
Williams'
deal.
contract is terrible.
I
He's not a
know
good
for the
player.
next 3 years, but he's 18 million. And the
I
guy was
know
like,
it's definitely a lot
it's half.
less,
It's
but,
like
like,
20 million less
I
than
know
what
it's
Zion's making.
definitely a lot less, but, like, the second that ink dried on the deal, it was a horrific contract. I mean,
Yeah,
Patrick Williams is averaging 6.5 points, just under 3 boards. He's shooting 38% from the field. Like,
yeah.
this is a guy who is, like, it's per stat, per versus per dollar, has to be one of the least productive players in
He's
this.
awful. He
Yeah.
sucks.
Yeah.
I just when I heard that deal, I was like, they're like, well, then you can get Vooch to re-sign because he's a shooter. I'm like, what is this? Vooch re-signing at 36 years old? What are we doing? Like,
Yeah,
and I even
like,
commented, I said, this is a terrible trade. And that was
that's
the
a
Pelicans
terrible.
podcaster saying that. Like, and their value is going to be higher of Zion than what mine is. I mean, my
I know.
goodness.
I wonder if that's just, like, Pelicans' frustration like this. I think if, like, the league would be shocked if that trade went through, not like went through, but, like, if it happened, because I
Mhm.
think a lot of people think or agree, like, Zion needs a change of scenery. He needs,
Yeah.
like, he's just gonna continue to be the same guy if he stays in the same place. But if he goes somewhere else, maybe something could change for him, but that trade ain't it.
Yeah. And so that I did expand it a little bit. I did mention Ryan Rollins to the Pelicans, Chris Paul to the
That
Bucks.
that helps, that helps.
I did have Eves Missy actually going to the Clippers just because they lose Zubac and Collins. They kind of need some center help there. Giannis can play the
Yeah,
5. Brooke Lopez is there. I thought it kind of made some sense to send Eves Missy to
that
Clippers.
does. That does make some sense.
And then I had 2 extra second round picks going to the Bucks because they're taking on the Chris Paul contract, which nobody wants. Plus, they're getting rid of Ryan Rollins, who's really their best asset. I mean, if they could include AJ Green in this deal, like, I mean, but you got to remember AJ Green's under a great contract. So you got AJ
Yes, it is.
Green, Zion, Mathurin, Turner, like, plus all these picks. It does kind of seem like you could at least start to form something here that's not just the most complete team ever. So you got KPJ as well. There's just a lot of moving pieces here that would have to take place for the Bucks, but they would be in rebuild mode, and they could trade Turner and get some stuff for him potentially as well in the offseason. So I don't know what it would be, but I'm sure there would be a team like the Raptors would probably love Miles Turner and get off the Pirtle contract, right?
Oof,
That could be a deal where the Bucks are
bad
like, we'll take
deals right
Pirtle.
there.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I just throwing some stuff out there, Fox, just seeing if it sticks. But I felt like the 14 deal with the Clippers made sense, and I can see Steve Ballmer doing everything he can to get
Oh, yeah.
Giannis. They're a sleeper team that no one's talking about that I could see. Wow, the Clippers did that. Wow.
Yeah, and the Clippers can do this and still have James Harden, Kawhi Leonard, Giannis. Like all of a sudden now, like you do have enough to try and make that like one last real run at it before Harden and Kawhi get too old.
Yeah, I think they would still have Derrick Jones Jr. as well as Chris Dunn. You get Alvarado and Missy in this trade, which is some other assets. And there's going to be people on the buyout market. That makes sense. I know Bradley Beal is hurt for the rest of the year, but they could find somebody like along those lines to come in and potentially play for them. So I don't know. I just thought it made sense for everybody involved, and it helps the Pacers get Zubac.
That does. I think it makes a lot of sense for Indiana. And a few other teams in there. So always complicated with 4 teams. What one team is going to be more of a facilitator always in those type of deals rather than getting something. But sometimes getting off a big contract is getting something. It's financial freedom. So yeah. So I thought that was a lot of fun. I thought, you had some deals that got a little bit crazier with the 3 and the 4 teams and stuff, which is always a blast to go through. Mine were a little bit more simpler, but love to hear from the listeners. Love to hear from you guys that are listening to this. Which trade was your favorite? Which one makes the most sense? Maybe bring up a deal or two that we didn't discuss that is totally worth, mentioning. Or maybe there's a player that you think, hey, this guy is who I think is most realistic for the Pacers to acquire this week that wasn't named. I'd be curious to see if there's who can pick the guy that's coming to the Pacers that no one's talking about.
I would love it. I love seeing people guess, and I had a fun time guessing the day who I thought would be on the All-Star team as a reserve, and I got all of them right, Facci, like I mentioned. So if you guys have it,
the right lottery numbers. I mean, you're using your skill set for the wrong thing over there.
I think there's a lot better chance of guessing the Eastern Conference reserves than the lottery numbers, but you never know, Facci. So with that being said, Pacer Nation, thank you all so much for tuning into the episodes we put out today. I know there's a lot of content there, a lot of meat on the bones, but hopefully you enjoyed it. We'll have some game recaps coming up here after the Pacers play the Rockets and the Jazz. Facci will be going solo. So not solo, but he's going to have Kyle Taylor on. I won't be with him to recap that Rockets game, and then I'll be doing the Jazz game. So going to have plenty of content out there for you, Pacer Nation, and we do appreciate you also. Facci, if you're open, the Pacers are just at least a little active at the trade deadline, and hit me with those 3 words.
Let's go, Pacers.